Hello everybody, welcome back to another valuation investing video, and today in this video I'm going to be going over Novo Nordisk, in which Novo Nordisk, as we can see here in this chart, is down 63% over the past year. Taking a look at the 52-week low, the 52-week low was literally hit today at $48.46. So right now, Novo Nordisk is at a 52-week low, and looking at the market cap, this company is trading at $166 billion, meaning this company was nearly $400 billion back about 1 year ago, and it's lost over 60%, obviously, because the stock is down 60+%. PE ratio, I like to see this is really low at 13.64. And another intriguing fact about this company is the dividend yield, 3.39%. But I would probably be careful because this company could potentially be cutting this dividend. If they start to grow at a lesser rate, this could be reduced. But taking a look at Novo Nordisk, you guys probably have heard of the drugs that they make. This is a healthcare company that makes Ozempic, Wegovy, Ribelsus, and Saxenda. I don't know how to say these, but obviously most people do know of Ozempic and Wegovy, and these are all containing the ingredient semaglutide, which helps you lose weight and also helps diabetes. So their main segments is losing weight and diabetes treatments. But why is this stock down so much, especially over the past few days? And the main reason this stock is down is, take a look, they just lowered their 2025 growth outlook for sales and operating profit. They're expecting 2025 to only grow at 8 to 14% in their revenue, and their profit to grow at about 10 to 16%, which is still pretty fast, but is definitely lower than what analysts expected. And also we can see in May, they also reduced those growth figures to 13 to 21% and 16 to 24%. So they keep reducing their guidance because of the impact of demand for its branded GLP-1s. And there's also more compounded versions on the market with Hims and Hers. So we'll be getting into that deal that they used to have with Hims and Hers. But first, as we can see, second forecast cut of 2025, they have weaker demand for their drugs and also increased competition with companies such as Eli Lilly increasing their competition in the space of weight loss drugs. And also they just got a new CEO, which probably isn't the reason it tanked, but they did get a new CEO, and the stock market doesn't like variability or uncertainty in the future. They like to have certainty in the stock market. And when something comes up with a company or just in the stock market that makes it a little more uncertain, the stock market will go down a little bit, or with this case, Novo Nordisk will. But like I said, with Hims and Hers and Novo Nordisk, they did have a deal previously where they had access to weight loss medications. Novo Nordisk and Hims and Hers announced this partnership in April 2023, where they aim to make Novo Nordisk weight loss medication Wegovy more accessible to patients. So they used to have this partnership between both Hims and Hers and Novo Nordisk, where Hims and Hers is basically a telehealth company or a subscription-based company, which I personally own, where they would allow them to basically sell compounded versions of Wegovy at a cheaper price. So that did help Novo Nordisk, but they did just recently end this deal in June 2025, where they terminated the partnership with Hims and Hers, because of Novo Nordisk citing concerns about Hims and Hers sales and promotions of compounded versions of Wegovy because it is not FDA approved. But they did also allege that Hims and Hers was engaging in deceptive marketing practices, in which Hims and Hers has removed Wegovy from its platform. So this could also potentially hurt Novo Nordisk a little bit, especially because if other companies start to be selling their drugs at a cheaper price, this could really hurt Novo Nordisk in the future. Even though they were selling it on Hims and Hers for a lot cheaper price, it was still helping that revenue growth. And as I said earlier, with the increase in competition, Novo Nordisk is facing increase in competition in the diabetes and weight loss drug markets, particularly from Eli Lilly, in which that stock has been going crazy. And they have also been facing competition like Hims and Hers with copycat drugs, or which compounded drugs, which is selling at a cheaper price and aren't FDA approved. So with that being said, they have a lot of competition in the future, which I don't like to see in my companies that I own, because I would like to see a company that has a huge moat, probably won't lose any market share in the future. But I think the big worry with Novo Nordisk is the loss of market share in the future. And also, as we can see, companies like Roche, Pfizer, Amgen, and Viking are also developing weight loss treatments. So I think in the future, this company could be in some trouble just because of the competition. I think the weight loss industry will start to be diluted, and so many companies will be in this industry that it would start to turn out bad for most of the companies that actually get into it because they're all trying to chase that money. I think this could be bad for Novo Nordisk in the future, but at least they've had a lot of growth recently, but who knows what's going to happen in the future. Maybe Novo Nordisk does pull out as the best one here. And taking a look at their latest quarter's earnings and then the upcoming quarter's earnings, which is in exactly 1 week, we can see that they did beat on the earnings per share and the revenue last quarter, where they reported 99 cents of earnings per share and $11.83 billion in revenue. So they slightly beat on both the EPS and revenue, but as we can see here, analysts do expect a decline down to 91 cents and also the revenue to decrease by about 100 million to $11.73 billion. So they are expected to decrease quarter over quarter, but I don't think that's too bad, especially because year over year, they definitely are growing at greater than 10%. So they're growing at double digits. And if we take a look at the revenue growth for Novo Nordisk, we can see this right here, that they have been increasing this at a very fast pace, over 15% revenue growth from Novo Nordisk over the past 5 years. So this is pretty good growth rate from Novo Nordisk, but they do expect this revenue to decrease a little bit for this quarter, so this is slightly concerning. The revenue is starting to slow off because of the increased competition with weight loss drugs, so it does make sense why the stock is going down a bit, but do I think this could be a little bit over exaggerated? Potentially. And now looking at the EPS, also amazing growth rate from the EPS for Novo Nordisk, growing at about a 20-some% growth rate. So this is a very fast growth rate for the EPS, and I really like this about Novo Nordisk. And as we can see here, this is really good growth for the EPS, in which the EPS is expected to be right about here still. So the EPS isn't expected to be that much less than last quarter, but it is still supposed to decrease a little bit. So it's slightly worrying, but nonetheless, this growth rate over time is still really good. And looking at the greater picture, it's just very good growth. And the next thing is the PE ratio of the company. And as we can see, normally the EPS will follow the stock price. See, the EPS was continuing to grow while the stock price was also growing, but also the valuation of Novo Nordisk was growing during this time, which caused the stock price to tank all the way back down, especially since the company isn't meeting expectations and starting to cut guidance, a lot of people are going to start selling the stock, and now the valuation is near a low for the past 10 years, and it's at about a 14 PE ratio right now. So this is trading at a very attractive valuation, and I think this could be a good time to buy if you believe this company can continue to grow in the future. That's the big question about this company. If they can continue to grow at even maybe 5%, I think this could be a buy, but I just think the risks of the competition with this company is pretty worrying to me. And taking a look at the financial health of Novo Nordisk, I use my 7-step stock analysis, which goes over the 7 key metrics that I look at. First, the PE ratio is greater than 0 out of 13. The stock market trades at about a 25 PE ratio, so this is almost half the valuation of the stock market. So if you bought this today, you're paying $13 for $1 of earnings per share. And now the forward PE ratio, I want this less than 30. As we can see, it's at 12, meaning you're paying $12 for $1 of future earnings per share over the next year. So this is a very cheap valuation for Novo Nordisk, especially taking a look at the past revenue and EPS growth rates of nearly 20% for both of these. So the growth rate of this company has been very good over the past 5 years, and I like that. Also, they're buying back some shares. I like that, but I am worried if they were buying back during that time period where the stock price was super high. I would like to see them start to buy back even more in the next quarter. If they start to buy back more next quarter, I think this could be a good sign that management sees this as a good opportunity to buy the stock. Now for the debt to equity ratio, this is a bit high at 86%. I want this less than 50%. If it's less than 50%, that means the company has more than double the amount of equity than their debt. But since it's 86%, that means they have 0.86 times the amount of debt than their equity. So this is a little bit high for me, but it's still not terrible. And analysts still expect this company to grow about 13% over the next 5 years. So they're still expecting this company to grow at a good rate. And I think this could potentially be possible if they increase their profit margins and also increase their buybacks. But do I think the revenue growth rate is going to be growing this fast? Probably not. But they still expect nearly double-digit revenue growth rate for this quarter. but they still expect a double-digit revenue growth rate for this year at about 12 to 15%. So they're still expecting really good growth from this company, and trading at this valuation, it seems very attractive to me. Now, taking a look at my intrinsic value calculator, I have to use assumptions for the future in order to get a fair value price for Novo Nordisk. The first thing I have to do is the future annual revenue growth rate that I think they're going to grow at for the next 10 years, which, as we saw with my 7-step stock analysis, they were growing at about 19% over the past 5 years. So they've really ramped up this revenue growth rate over the past 5 years as a result of their weight loss drugs. But do I think they're going to be growing that fast in the next 10 years? Probably not, because of increased competition in this space. And it's going to just get so diluted that every big pharma company is going to try and sell these weight loss drugs. So I think it's going to start to slow down that revenue growth rate. But I think a fair revenue growth rate could be about 7% over the next 10 years. I think that's pretty fair for Novo Nordisk, because I do see that in, say, the next 5 years, they could probably grow at about 10 to 12%, but I think it's going to continue to slow down. And I think a fair revenue in the next 10 years is about $82 billion. Now, taking a look at the future profit margin, Novo Nordisk has been anywhere from 30 to 37% profit margin. I do think right now they're at about a 35 to 36 profit margin. I think in the next 10 years, this will decrease by a decent amount. I don't think it's going to decrease by a huge amount, but I do think it's going to decrease because of increased pressures from other companies getting into the weight loss drug space. I think this will decrease by a little bit, say to 33 net profit margin. Now for the future PE ratio. Right now, I think that they are at a pretty low PE ratio than what they should be. They're at about a 12 PE ratio. The stock market is trading at about a 25 PE ratio, in which I think this company doesn't deserve a premium compared to the market. I think they deserve a slight undervaluation compared to the market with their PE ratio, because they're facing increased competition in this space, and also because they're expected to grow at a pretty slow rate, probably because I think they can grow at 7% each year. Even though in the next few years they're expected to grow pretty fast, I think they deserve a slightly less PE ratio than the market. And I think the market's slightly overvalued right now, in which I think a future PE ratio for Novo Nordisk should be 18. Now for the shares outstanding. I think they're just going to be buying back 1% each year. This company continues to be buying back just 1% every year. And with that being said, I get a future share price in the next 10 years at $122 per share, in which I get a total annualized return of nearly 10%. So I think if you bought this company, you'd make about market average returns. And me personally, I'm staying away from this company just because I see the huge increased competition in this space. And also, I think Novo Nordisk will face some worries in the future because of this. I think every company is going to try and make weight loss drugs, and it's just going to continue to dilute this space, to which there's going to be so many weight loss drugs out on the market that there's not really going to be a good moat for a company to be selling these drugs. And also, the problem with Novo Nordisk, they're charging such a high price for their weight loss drugs. I think if other companies start to make more drugs, I think that this profit margin will decrease over time, and they're going to have to lower their prices, which is a problem for me. But me personally, I think 10% return, pretty fair market average return with Novo Nordisk, I personally think. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video on Novo Nordisk. Comment down below what you think about my analysis. I'd love to hear feedback, even if it's bad. I don't care if it's good or bad. Just please give some feedback so I can improve my calculations. And thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, hit the like button, and see ya.